Well, Kip, it's good to see you, man. I had a long weekend. I'm a little tired. I'm going to try to fake the energy the way that Joe Biden did. I want to know what medication they pump Joe Biden full of when he does the State of the Union, because I watched a video about 10 seconds before I hopped on this call with you, and that guy, I mean, look, we can discuss politics, sure. But if you're a liberal, you're on the left, and you're not willing to at least admit the guy has got some major mental issues because of his age, like it's like that's it.
Well, and
Alzheimer's or
a lot of video evidence of him. Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty clear at this point to me. But I watched a video of this guy speaking after the State of the Union address, and I just could not help but think, what medication did they pump this guy full of? And can I have some of that? Because I might need it today.
Yeah. You can't deny the fact that he proved that he was alive and had some energy to him, for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. I expected a lot worse of showing up from an energy level and comprehension than he did. So at least props from that perspective. Now, what he said is, we can talk about that.
To me, he was like the angry old grandpa who, was mad at the universe and slurred every other word. I'm trying to look at it as objectively as possible. He definitely had more energy than normal, but clearly something's amiss. I had a guy on the podcast, I can't remember his name right offhand. This was years and years ago. He wrote Left of Bang. And one of the things that really stood out to me is that when you're looking at certain situations, you want to look for a baseline behavior or expected personalities or expected circumstances, and anything that deviates from that should signal a red flag. So if you're at a concert, clearly, going to a Metallica concert is going to be different than going to, the symphony. Both concerts, but the way that people engage and the way they show up is going to be different. And so that's the baseline. But if something's out of the norm, then that's when you should start raising some questions. And for Biden, and we won't beat a dead horse here, almost literally in that case, it's different. When he just shows up and does the state, it's different. So my question is, what in the world is going on? Anyways.
Yeah, totally. Left of Bang authors Patrick Van Horn and Jason Riley.
Yeah, I was thinking Patrick Van Horn. That's who I was thinking. That's a really good book. So, all right. Well, Kip, should we get to some headlines today?
Yeah, I'm assuming your headline has to do with your weekend. So how you went on a hunt? I
want to save mine.
You want to save yours?
I want you to go first today. I went first last week, so you go first.
Okay.
And I'll go second because mine is crazy and hilarious and amazing at the same time.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's mine. Ultimately, I dredged through the process of watching the State of the Union. I do feel that it is somewhat, as a citizen of the United States, I should. Right? And I should be aware of the conversations, whether I agree with them, whether I don't, and I should be critically thinking as I watch. I had the same conversation with someone actually on social media when I found out that Tucker was going to interview Putin. And I said, and I think it was Lex Friedman, he mentioned that he would love to interview Putin as well. And I said, that's an awesome idea. I got this massive backlash on the socials around that idea. And they're like, well, he's just going to manipulate. He's just going to talk. He's going to lie and all these things. And I'm like, that's exactly why, right? We need to critically think. We don't reduce, exactly. And we don't reduce the sharing of knowledge and just try to cut off people we disagree with. No, you should hear them. If they're your enemy, you should listen to them and their thoughts and their consideration. And most importantly, critically think for yourself and determine for yourself what that looks like. Anyhow, I digress. So I watched the State of the Union, and really my takeaway is how sad it is that we accept lies and people being out of integrity because we say it's politics. And I do think it's a social thing that we do. We think, well, it's politics. And for some odd reason, that is a pass for people to be dishonorable, to speak half-truths, to twist the truth, to leave information out, to omit information, and to spin the truth to meet a narrative. And we say it's okay because it's in the space of politics. And that's what bothers me. I would love to hear a politician someday say, it's actually a complex thing, this thing, whatever we're talking about. And it would take a long time for us to discuss, but here's some pros and cons and things to consider as part of this subject. And be truthful, but yet none of them are. And all I heard is talking points, spinning of the truth to drive a narrative. And we accept that as it's okay. And I couldn't help but think of a Ray Dalio quote. He says, have integrity and demand it from others. And so I watched that, and my takeaway wasn't to storm, Congress and spin truth. It's like, no, actually, how do I don't like that in the politics side. So what do I need to do? That I need to make sure that I have integrity in all areas of my life and demand it from others. And I think if we self-evaluate and look at areas of our life, we don't demand it from others. We do accept a little tidbits of mediocrity. We do certain things. Little example, but one that I think illustrates this point. We had a project that we spun off with a new client, and I don't say this to make myself sound great or anything, but this client said, we will sign this contract, but we want Kip to stay involved. Right? Otherwise, we're not signing it. Right? And so we're like, absolutely. The sales rep is like, hey, absolutely. We'll keep Kip involved. We kick off the project. Project's going well. I check in on them. How's things going? Everything's great. I don't think you need to be on any of the calls. Client seems really happy, whatever. And I was like, no, I told them I'd stay involved, period. Whether you think we need to, whether we don't think they need to, whether they're okay even with me not being involved. The point is, we told them I would. So we're going to, because that's the right thing to do. And I think there are little gray areas of our lives where we've thought, it's not necessary. Oh, it's not that critical. And we see it's okay. And that's not us having integrity, and that's certainly not us demanding integrity from others.
Yeah. It's powerful, man. You've gone back to this, and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is you should detach yourself from the result. When it comes to your integrity, doing the right thing is the right thing regardless of the outcome. And it's not always comfortable. And I think as humans, we have a tendency of the ends justifying the means. I don't think they do. Yeah. They don't. The outcome is important. Don't get me wrong. Whether it's politics or business or relationships, I think the outcome is very important. But doing the right thing is more important. And then letting the chips fall where they may. And I believe that the relationships will work out, the business will work out, the politics will work out if we do the right thing. Maybe not in the micro, but in the macro, they definitely will. So I love that you bring that stuff to the table, because I think more of us need to, and myself included, need to keep that in mind, that the way we do things matters. Not just what we get done, but the way that we do it actually matters.
Yeah, totally. And it's something we have to fight for constantly.
Yeah. Fight against, right? Because our natural tendency is like, let me get mine. I need mine. Let me take care of myself. We're willing to sacrifice a lot of other things in order to accomplish that. So yeah, cool, man. Well, appreciate that. All right, so you want to hear my headlines now?
Absolutely.
Holy crap. So
I'm actually really excited about this. I don't even know what it is. I just know it's going to be good.
You don't know? Yeah. So I went hunting with my girlfriend this last weekend. It was her very first hunt, and she killed a pig. I did not. I'm going to throw that out there because I know she listens. And she told me she was going to start a podcast called Order of Man Fact Check. And so I figured I'd be really honest about this. I missed a couple of shots. One was a pretty long shot. I'm okay with that. The other one was not a long shot. I just missed high. I just made a bad shot. I did not kill a pig. All right, let's just get that out there. She did, though.
How long was her shot?
It was like 30 to 40 yards. So it was, but it was dark. It was a good shot. Like look, I know 30 to 40 yards sounds like, it's easy. It's not easy. No. People think it's easy. They think, like 30, that's easy. It is. I mean, it's a shorter shot for sure, but it was dark. It was dusk. It was like close to, we're going to wrap this thing up. And the pigs were black. Like, it's hard to see. And she just, and it's an animal. You're taking an animal's life. Like, it's way harder to do that than just shoot a target.
Pressure,
people who've never shot
heartbeat.
An animal don't understand that. So she made a shot. We killed the pig and harvested the pig, and she's really excited about that, and I'm excited for her.
Cool.
But anyways, that's beside the headline. So I saw a headline in the gas station. We were down near Del Rio, which is the border of the United States with Mexico, like literally on the border. We almost went into Mexico by accident. That's how close we are to the border.
Got it.
And I went into this gas station with her, and I saw this headline in the newspaper, and the headline was 4 killed in high-speed crash. And I glanced through the article a little bit, and what had ended up happening is that, and I don't know all the details, it was just the article, and I went through real quick, but that there was a high-speed chase in the town that we were in, which was Bracketville, which is just north of Del Rio. And it was illegal aliens that were being chased, pursued, and ended up killing themselves and getting a few other people killed. And I talked to our outfitter out there. I said, hey, I saw this headline. He's like, oh, yeah, that happens all the time. In fact, it happens, 1 to 2, 3 times per day, high-speed chases. I'm like, well, who is it? It's like illegal aliens? He's like, no, it's people smuggling people across the border. And they're getting these high-speed chases. I'm like, this is freaking wild. So one morning, her and I wake up early. This was Sunday morning. We had the daylight savings time thing change on Sunday, so we were a little confused about the time. So we woke up 2 hours before we needed to go hunt. And we thought, well, let's just run into town. We'll get a drink. We'll get a few things before our hunt because we're up. We might as well stay up. We ran into town, and we got our drinks, and she's like, hey, I need to run to the bathroom real quick. I'm like, cool, I'll just wait in the car for you. So I go get in the car. She's in the bathroom. And by the way, I will say this, and I know she's listening. She's like, I'll just go by myself. I'm like, I'm not going to let you go to the gas station at 5 a.m. in Bracketville, Texas. Like, no, that's not happening. Yeah. She's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, no, that's not happening. So I went with her. And she's in the bathroom. I'm in the car. And I see these two Hispanic guys, walk by. And they go into and one of them looks shady as shit. One of them bothered me. Like, I saw him, and he just bothered me. They walk into the convenience store, and they go up to the clerk, and he buys like an orange juice. I think it was an orange juice that one of them bought. And they're talking to the clerk for a long time. And I noticed that my girlfriend comes out of the bathroom, and she goes behind him in line. And I'm not totally comfortable with this. So I am thinking, well, I'm going to get out, and I'm going to go in. Because I did not feel comfortable with what was happening. And about the time I was thinking about going out, they walk out of the door, and they go around the front of the convenience store, and they go around the side. I'm like, okay, cool, like shady characters, but it's done. She's going to get her drink and come back out in the car. Sitting in their car watching my girlfriend, and to my left, this sheriff's SUV pulls up, screaming into the driveway of the convenience store, goes around the back where these guys went around, and I'm like, oh shit. This is about to go down. So the sheriff goes around this back. I watch these two guys, these Hispanic guys, run off to the right of me, and they're running off, and the sheriff like pulls around, whips his car. Props to him. That guy was actually pretty incredible. He was there super fast, like maneuvering his vehicle. I'm like, this is crazy. My girlfriend's in the convenience store. I'm watching this whole thing in my car go down. And this guy runs up the street. I'm like, all right, they're going that way. And he turns around and he starts coming back to the convenience store. So I'm like, oh, shit. Well, all right. Like, this is going to go
get
down.
Out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Like, this is going to go down. Like, I need to figure out. I'm thinking this guy's going to run by. And I grab my door because he's going to run by me. And I'm going to door him. Like, I was fully anticipating just hitting him with my door. So he runs this way. I open the door. I get out of the car. And he looks at me. It was one of them because the other guy got away. And he's like making the praying hands. And he's like, por favor, por favor. And I'm like, no. And I'm yelling at him. And he runs the other way. And the cop comes around the corner and chases him back. My girlfriend comes out of the convenience store. I'm like, go back in the store. I'm yelling at her. I'm like, go back in the store. So she goes back in the store. And this guy is at the door. And he's like, por favor, por favor. I'm like, no. Like, I'm yelling at this guy. And I kind of open the door a little bit more. And he runs off. And he runs into the police officer. And the police officer grabs him, apprehends him, throws him in cuffs. Bro, it was freaking crazy. So I flag my girlfriend down. I'm like, hey, like, come out. And she comes out. We get in the car, and I'm backing up, and I see the sheriff walking this guy in handcuffs back to his squad car, and another officer pulls up, and he like leans down. He's like, thank you, thank you. Bro, it was freaking crazy. Crazy. I don't know the situation, but I imagine these are illegal aliens. And I talked to our outfitter there, and I said, this is what happened. He's like, man, you have no idea. He worked really closely with Border Patrol, and Border Patrol is everywhere down there. There's sheriff, there's Border Patrol, there's police officers, they're everywhere. And he says, you have no idea. They work really closely with Border Patrol on the ranch there. He asked him, our outfitter asked Border Patrol, how many people do you think come through our property like on a daily basis that don't get apprehended? And the Border Patrol agent told him anywhere from 50 to 60 per day come right through your property alone and never get apprehended. It is wild down there. It is the wild, wild west.
It's crazy.
It's different than you think. We're being overrun. We're being invaded. It's not good. It is not good. And just to have that small little experience there made me realize what is happening down there. And if you're not for closing that border down, shame on you. Because this is not going to go well. Now, I know there's a lot of bleeding hearts. Oh, there are no illegal aliens. They're undocumented. There's no illegal people. No, there is. They're breaking the law. They're coming here. They're not being vetted. We don't know who they are. They're putting Americans at risk. They're bringing drugs and especially fentanyl. I heard a statistic, 100,000 people roughly die of fentanyl overdose every single year. A lot of these people don't even know they're taking fentanyl. They just get exposed to it.
It's laced. Yeah.
It's laced. They pick something up. They pick up a cigarette or think they're, smoking a joint or pick up a bag. There was a police officer a few years ago, I think, who had picked something up. It was laced with fentanyl. She died. Look, we can talk about the humanity side of it, but I'll tell you what, if you think that it's humane to let undocumented individuals into this country because they're trying to flee or whatever it may be, you're the inhumane one, because you're not considering our sons and daughters who are being exposed to fentanyl. You're not considering the sons and daughters like Lake and Riley who have been murdered and executed by illegal aliens who are undocumented and want to come to this country to do harm to people. Now, I'm all for a proper path to citizenship. If we have individuals who want to come here, who believe in the American dream, who want to do right by themselves and their families, who want to come here and assimilate to American culture, then I would love to have those individuals here and contribute to the American dream. But I need to make sure that we're vetting who those individuals are and that we know that these are people who really care about our values. And if they don't, they can get the fuck out of here for all I care. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but you know what? I saw just a snippet, just a glimpse of again, a sliver of a percentage of what is actually taking place. And I'm telling you, it's not good. It's not healthy, and it's not conducive to the American dream that so many of us want to pursue.
Yeah. I mean, you look at how we're dealing with the border, that's not how you deal with anything, right? Like, if it's about helping people, then have the process and the system in place to do so. Having just an open border and not addressing it, that's not doing anything. That's just turning a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's occurring. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's my headline.
Such a mess.
We
that's fun.
We had a great weekend, and we had some interesting experiences, to say the least.
I love it. I love it. That sounds super fun. And then congratulations to her for getting the pig. That's awesome.
She got it done.
And way for you. Way to check the ego. Way to check the ego. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Well, I probably wouldn't have until she said she's going to do an order and then fact check thing. I'm like, I'll probably be truthful about this before she comes clean with it.
Yeah. Hey, demand integrity of those around us, right? So if that's what she needs to do,
isn't that the kind of person
perfect.
you want in your life too, right? I mean, don't you want? Not always do you want that kind of individual around you.
No,
whether it's
that's what you should have around you.
Relationship or a friendship, but those are the kind of people that are the ones who are really in your corner, making sure you're on point. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Greg Cleaver, we're going to fill some questions from the Iron Council. Greg, he says, hold on a second. Hold on. I lost my question. Sorry. Okay. Greg Cleaver. Could you discuss the difference between periods of pushing hard into goals to the point of overextending oneself and then experiencing mental burnout, and the necessity and the need for a period of recovery and reduced productivity periods? I really hate experiencing this burnout cycle. I've tried several strategies to prevent it from occurring, and nothing has been successful in managing this. It is simply a matter of better task efficiency. Is it a lack of organization or pacing my task management? Coming into my next battle plan, I want to do something to attempt to address this in my calibration objective, but I'm at a loss. Any suggestions I would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
So let's paint a scenario here. Let's say, Kip, you and I are going to let's say you and I are going to train against each other, maybe some jiu-jitsu. You and I are going to, but it's an exhibition match or it's a fight or something, and you and I are going to go at it. Okay. But we don't know any of the rules, and we don't know any of the time or the scoring method. No rules, no time, no scoring method. We're not privy to any of that information. How do you play that? And that's not rhetorical. How do you play? What's your strategy? Do you conserve? Do you go balls to the wall? What's your strategy?
Yeah, I conserve. I go in kind of easy going initially, assuming that it's going to be a long haul. I don't know why I would assume that, but that's what I would assume.
I think that's the safe play. That's probably what I would do too. If I go balls to the wall, let's say by some miracle I happen to submit you. I don't know the rules. Maybe that's not actually the objective of the game. So I go balls to the wall. I quote unquote submit you, but that's not really the point of the game. Maybe the point is to submit them 10 times and then you win. We don't know the rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I expend all of my energy up front, then okay, great, I got you once, and now I'm completely exhausted, and for you to submit me 10 times is like easy at that point because I'm gassed if you're playing the conservative route. Redlining is for when we know there's an end in sight. I want you to consider a marathon. You're going to run 26.2 miles, whatever it is. You go run your 26 miles. You don't redline at mile 5. Conserve. Run a good even pace, something you can maintain for 25 and a half miles. What do you do at 25 and a half miles? Okay, now we can talk about redlining. Because you know there's only a half mile left. I'm going to redline. I'm going to push it hard for this last half mile. And that way I can take a rest after the 26 miles that I complete. Redlining is only for when the end is in sight. If we're talking about jiu-jitsu, if you're looking at the scoreboard and the clock is winding down and you're even or behind on points, you gas it at the end because you know this is your last chance, but you don't ever gas it at the beginning. And this is true of life. Your goal in life is to do things that you know are productive for as long as you possibly can sustain them. So if you've been sitting on the couch for the past decade and you think that you're going to go to the gym 2 times a day, every day this week, and you're going to do things that you haven't done for 15 years, you're redlining. you're going to gas yourself out.
Yeah.
If you pick up a new project at work and you've never done it before and it's above your pay grade and you know it's going to take a lot of time and energy and resources, and you give everything that you possibly can, you're redlining and you're putting your family at risk, you're putting yourself at risk, you're even putting the business at risk because you're not there yet. When we think about our activities, what we need to think about is things that push us a little bit outside of our comfort zone, but things that we know we can sustain. So again, to go back to that analogy of sitting on the couch for the past 10 years, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go every day this week 2 times a day for 3 hours. No, you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to go in for about 45 minutes Monday through Friday. You can do that. That's sustainable. And you're going to look at your calendar and you're going to say, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to go in at 7 a.m. And on Tuesday and Thursday, because of my work schedule, I'm going to go in at 3 or 4 in the afternoon when I'm done with my work. And you plan it in and you make appropriate decisions in something that's sustainable. And it's not, hey, I'm going to do this for a week. It's, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. So what I would say to you is extend your time horizon and ask yourself, is this sustainable for life? Now, there are things that you're just going to have to sustain for a week, but that's what I'm talking about. Those are red line events. You're going to go balls to the wall for a week, and you're going to tell your wife and your kids, guys, I got a project at work. I'm not really going to be available and present for the next week, and you go at it hard. And then a week later, you take your break because the race is over. But that's how I tend to look at it.
That's interesting. Let me ask you this. In his question, he alluded kind of to mental, right? And does that change, right? Like, we're talking about, workout, burnout. How much does mindset come into this where it's not a redlining mentally. It's more something else, right? Is it maybe us questioning whether this is really working or not? Or do you get what I'm saying? And
I think so.
I can't, like I think it's Dale Carnegie has this quote. I use it a lot from a work perspective, but it goes something to the extent of that in most employee burnout, frustration, resentment in the work that they're doing is not the quantity of work. It's actually how they see the work, right? Think about it this way. When you're passionate about something and you're working on it and you're bought in, you're like, man, this is it's exciting. You probably even have more energy. But when you have to do the thing that you don't see, like you feel like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have to be doing this. Like I'll use an example. If you're working on your taxes, that's a burnout activity. Why? Because you're frustrated with the task. Why do I have to do this? I shouldn't have to do this. This is so frustrating. I shouldn't have to be paying this much. Like, it's how you feel about the work. But if we flip it and you start working on some awesome marketing content for Order of Man, you could probably work twice as long on that stuff versus taxes, and you don't feel burnt out. Why? Because you're aligned to it. It has fulfillment in it. You see the purpose. You can identify the outcome of how this is going to move things forward. It's when we work on things that we feel like we shouldn't, or we don't see the desired outcome that's associated to it, we start feeling burnout.
Yeah.
So with that said, how would you change your response a little bit towards that thought?
Well, no, but nobody likes to do things they don't want to do. I don't really think we need to look into it much further than that. If you don't like to do it, it's not going to be an enjoyable thing for you.
You're not going to enjoy it.
So what do you do in that scenario? Well, some things just have to be done. And to your point, I would say align that with a mission. If it's taxes have to be done. It's not something you can control. It's not whether or not you can control elements of it, but whether or not they're done is not something you can control unless you want to go to prison. So it's got to be done. There was a time where I dread paying taxes every single year, but 5, 6, 7 years ago, I dreaded it more than I do today. Why? Because I hired a CPA. I hired a bookkeeper. I don't keep my own books. I buy what I need to buy. I run my expenses and my purchases through my business. She looks at it once a month. She'll send me an email and say, hey, I don't know what these 2 expenses are. Can you tell me? I'm like, yeah, that one was for supplies and that one was for investment in camera equipment. She's like, cool, I'll categorize those. Like, I don't do that shit. And I'm not saying that everybody's there. Not everybody is in that position, but delegation is crucial. And then simplicity. There are certain things that just don't need to be done. You think they do, you think they're a necessity, but they don't. So I try to a couple of things I try to do: simplify, eliminate, and outsource.
Yeah.
Certain things I don't even need to be done. Everybody else thinks it's an issue. It's like, nope, it's not an issue. I'm not doing that. Other things like taxes, those need to be done. That's not a choice. So we're going to simplify and outsource. That's been hugely, hugely helpful for me. Another thing on the mental side, what you can control is how you perceive hardship. We know, for example, that willpower is fleeting. So if I wake up in the morning and I'm expected to make a bunch of choices about my personal and professional life, I can make those choices, but at the end of the day, it's going to be harder for me to make smart choices because my willpower is fleeting. So I'm going to simplify elements of my life. For example, the one we often hear about is somebody like Steve Jobs wearing his jeans and his black turtleneck shirt. That's his wardrobe. He doesn't have to think about that, right? That's a way to simplify, to maintain willpower towards something that's important. But I also think there's an issue of perspective. My view of hardship is different than somebody else's. It's not better or worse, it's just different. So when somebody complains to me about how hard their life is, one experience I have to draw upon is spending a year and a half overseas. A year of it was in Iraq, seeing what it's actually like to live in hardship.
Yeah.
So it's all relative. Now when somebody says, oh, my fucking internet's not working, I'm like, yeah, well, that sucks, but at least your family is not going to die today because a terrorist is going to murder them. So I'm not trying to diminish people's experiences. I'm saying put yourself in voluntary hardship so that when other situations come up, you're like, yeah, this sucks, but it's okay. This weekend, for example, there was some times where we were cold. Like, it was cold. The wind was blowing right through your bones. It wasn't as cold as I've been in my entire life. It was cold, but I've been in way colder issues than that, and I could draw upon that to say, yeah, this is cold, but I'll be okay because I survived the other cold that was actually really cold. And that's the point that I'm making, is that the more you can put yourself into difficult situations in low risk environments, like sitting out in the cold while you're hunting, or going to jujitsu, or getting up and going and lifting weights, doing these hard things throughout the day as a way of life, it makes everything else easier, not because the circumstances change, but because, to your point, your perception of the circumstances are different. People will say, oh, this is so hard. And you'll always hear somebody say, well, that's not hard. This is what I did. They're right. That person's right. This is not hard because they've been in more difficult situations. And so the antidote is just put yourself in difficult situations. So being cold isn't going to be a crippling issue for you. Having a boss yell at you isn't going to be crippling for you. I remember when I went to basic training. Sorry, I'm on a bit of a rant here. I went to basic training, and we had guys that would crumble. Drill sergeants would yell at them, hurt their feelings, hurt their feel-bads. And they'd crumble, they'd cry, they'd literally cry. They'd wallow and throw themselves on the ground and throw a temper tantrum and allow it to get to them. And I went with two buddies from high school, Jed and Tony, and it was funny to watch these guys because we'd been yelled at for 20 years of our life at that point, almost, by coaches and people. Like, being yelled at by a grown man wasn't something that was unfamiliar to us. That's the point. You're inoculated against hardship if you're willing to thrust yourself into voluntary hardship.
Yeah. I watched an old interview between GSP and Rogan on YouTube this past week, and I loved one of the things that St. Pierre was saying. He said that except for training camp, his training, he always keeps it playful. Always keeps it playful. And it's not until his training camp start that he doubles down and gets serious. And he talks about how by keeping it playful, it was fun. He wanted to come, and he learned, and he innovated, and his fight game improved a lot when in play. And so it resonated to me because I don't keep things playful, right? If I read Greg's question here, pushing hard in my goals and you know what I mean? I'm like, immediately that is a sense of intensity, doesn't come across playful, you know, and I think we have to, you know, consider that's another aspect of this is, are you having fun? Yeah. And if you're not, how do you push hard? How do you achieve your goals while still enjoying yourself at the same time?
I like that. I think it's all about expectations. Another thing about this weekend is the first night we were out, we had 20 pigs come in, and my girlfriend I said, hey, here they come, like pick one and shoot, you know? And she did, and it misfired. And so she cleared it because she's proficient. She knows how to operate a firearm. She does tactical shooting and things like that with her dad and friends. And so she cleared it and tried to reload, and it wouldn't work. And I said, here, let me try. And so I cleared it, and I was getting super frustrated. And I created this really like uncomfortable environment between her and I, because I was frustrated because my expectation was we got to shoot a pig. Like that's what success is. And here they are. There's 20 pigs. Misfire. She can't clear it. I can't clear it. I'm pissed. I'm bothered. And I created this little, like this like really weird environment for us, sitting in a blind, which is like a small environment. It's all awkward and uncomfortable at this point. And she told me, she said, hey, look, like, I think your expectation and mine are different. Like, I'd love to come out here and kill a pig. That's why we're here. But I just like being with you. Like, I just want to have fun. If we left and we didn't kill anything, like, this would still be a good weekend for me. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Like that's, so you change your, so all of a sudden now it's not like I have to kill something. It's like, no, I'm here trying to connect with her and enjoy the weekend. And after that moment, we had an incredible weekend because the expectation was something different. It was, hey, let's go out here and enjoy. Now we got it done. She got it. I'm not gonna say we, she got it done. But it wasn't about that. It was about something else. And her and I, fortunately, in a healthy way, managed the expectation. And to George St. Pierre's comment, it just became enjoyable. We got it done, but it was way more enjoyable than if I had this high expectation that her and I were misaligned on.
Yeah, I see that. All right, Juan Carlos Silva. I got into Order of Man with the podcast like most started from the first episode 3 years ago. I stopped listening and got as far as September 25th, 2020. I'm going to start listening again. Should I continue where I left off or start with the most recent episode?
No.
Critical question.
I don't even want you to listen. You stop listening, you're out. You're done. Like, you don't get to come back and then decide to be engaged in what we're doing here. You're out.
You're part of us or you're not? Take a walk, Juan.
What I would suggest is no, don't start back at whatever you stopped at. Go through the inventory of podcasts and find one that resonates with you. So don't start on the newest, don't start on the oldest. Just scroll back a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever you feel comfortable with, and say, oh, that one looks interesting. I think I'll listen to that one. I think there's a big problem where, especially with the rise of social media, where we see what everybody else is doing, because, and these are people we admire and respect, otherwise we wouldn't be following them. And they say, well, I'm reading this book. I'm going on this vacation. I'm doing this workout. I'm trying this new activity. And you're like, well, then I have to. They're reading that book, then clearly I have to read that book. Well, if they're going that place, then I have to do that. They're doing jiu-jitsu, I have to do that. They're going on hunts, I have to do that. You don't have to do any of that, guys. There's certain things that I think would be enjoyable for you, like jiu-jitsu and hunting and other things that we talk about. Sure, of course. But you don't have to do any of that. You have to do the things that are interesting to you. And this goes back to the previous question about doing things that are enjoyable and sustainable. So, yeah, I used to, but I don't feel obligated to read every New York Times best-selling book on self-help anymore. I don't feel obligated, like one we've talked about. I don't listen to the Andrew Huberman podcast. I know everybody else on the planet does. I don't, because it doesn't resonate with me the same way. Now, I listen to his Instagram videos and pick up quick snippets here and there because I think they are valuable. but that's just not something I enjoy. And I don't feel ashamed about that, like I know a lot of people do, because that's what they're quote unquote supposed to do. Yeah. Just find something that works for you. And if you look at a podcast, and some guys they'll message me, they'll say, hard pass on this podcast. I'm like, good. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to listen to every single episode with the same amount of vigor as the ones that you really enjoy. Like, there's 1,000+ other podcasts that you can listen to. Find the one that you really like, listen to that one, apply it, most importantly, and leave the rest that just don't feel relevant to you. That's fine with me, and it's probably the better way to look at not just podcasting, but life in general.
Yeah. Joel Gonzalez, he has 2 questions, and the first is kind of quick, and I think his second question is actually good, so we'll cover both of them. What is the process that you'd recommend someone go through when choosing a team on the Iron Council? What kind of questions do you go through when vetting a team? I realize that in the process, I am vetting myself and making sure that I have something to offer. So what kind of things should I make sure I bring to the table? So everyone understands Joel is a fairly new member of the Iron Council. We have kind of a cohort process that he's gone through, and he's in this process, this wonderful process in the IC of finding a team, right, to join. And that's where his question is rooted.
I'm a little hesitant to answer this one because I sense a little bit of paralysis by analysis in the question.
I think that's a great answer. I say answer it that way. You're looking into it too much.
Yeah.
Well, he's looking into it too much, right? Yeah. Like, and it's not that we feel overly confident on the battle team leaders, but the reality of it is you could probably select any team in the Iron Council, show up powerfully, and get amazing results. Yeah. And you're looking into it way too often. And most importantly, and I'm going to get a little bit on a tangent here, but like, what determines your success? In most cases, it's not your boss. In most cases, it's not your team lead. In most cases, it's not the podcast you listen to or the book you read. The reality of it is the most determining factor is you. And we need to stop looking elsewhere for the solutions and see them as data points and inputs. But in the end, the person looking back at you in the mirror is the number one determining factor of your success in anything that you do.
Yeah, 100%. I think, in the spirit of the question, look at the lowest common denominator. Does this time work for me? Can I be here consistently? Can I show up at this time? That's the lowest common denominator. And then from there, is the team leader solid? Is he somebody I resonate with? Do I enjoy listening to him? Do I feel like he has perspective that I can be valuable or gain value from? And that's really about it. Yeah. That's really about it. Because you're going to have guys on the team who are solid. You're going to have guys on the team who aren't. And those guys who are solid, you can learn from. The guys who aren't, you can add value to. I'm with you. Is like, don't look too much into it. Find a team that works for you at a time that works for you, that you can be consistently showing up, and then make sure that the team leader isn't somebody who you just don't jive with. That you're like, I like this guy. That's enough. I like this guy. I like what he has to share. He has some good insight. That's enough. It really is. If you're willing, to your point, to go all in on it.
Yeah. Second question, when do you know that it's time to let go of a friend? I feel like some friends and I are heading down different paths. As part of me wants to hang on to these friendships out of loyalty, but sometimes I feel like we just don't have similar goals, and that's driving me to spend less time with them.
This one's hard for me to resonate with because I've never really felt obligated to hang on to things out of a sense of loyalty. And that might just be a personality thing. I want to be straightforward on that. I could tell you, here's all the things I would do, but I've never really felt that way. I don't feel that way about friends. I honestly, I've never really felt that way about family members. There's certain people that I will serve to the degree that I can with boundaries in place, especially if it's a challenging relationship or maybe even a toxic relationship. I'll continue to try to serve up to a point, but I've never felt like the best reason to stay in a relationship is out of some misguided sense of loyalty. I've never really felt that. I can appreciate it. I know that a lot of people do, and I actually value it. I am a loyal person, You know, I have my people and they're on my team and I'm loyal to those individuals, and my loyalty is communicated through my actions. I show up, I back those people up, I speak highly of them, I support them, I validate them. That's how I communicate my loyalty to them. I don't think it's as cut and dry as just like calling up a friend one day and say, hey, we're breaking up. Kind of what it sounds like. And you might have relationships where that happens, right? Where maybe you're dating somebody and it's like, hey, we got to break up. And so you have that conversation and it's a cold, hard line in the sand. But I don't think it works that way with friendships, especially if they've been a long time. What ends up happening is we evolve. We all evolve in different ways. It sounds like you may not be deviating as much as maybe even your friend is. Maybe it's not you who's breaking up with your friend. Maybe it's your friend who's breaking up with you because he's making choices that aren't congruent with the way that you want to live your life. Now, we as virtuous men tend to take that upon ourselves because we see our friends struggling, right? So you have two friends. Let's say, Kip, you and I are high school buddies, and I see you going down a path that I don't think is healthy for you. I'm going to feel some sense of loyalty and obligation and duty, and I think that's virtuous, and I will try to help where I can. But at some point, it's not me who's deviating from the relationship. It's you. And I can't control you. I can't force you to make better decisions. And they may not even be better decisions. They're just decisions I think are better. You have agency. You're a big boy. You can make those decisions on your own. I don't always have to agree with them, and I won't always agree with them. But what ends up happening is you evolve into some path and I evolve into some path, and it just becomes a little bit more fluid than just saying, hey, we're breaking up. You know, you don't spend as much time together, you don't see each other for a few weeks, and then it's a few months, and then it's, hey, I haven't seen that guy for 5 years. I hope he's doing okay. Because you're busy living your life. You're making other friends and friendships and acquaintances and networking and growing your business and building your family. And that is the correct priority. Those are the things that you should be doing. And it's not to say that you're mean or mean-spirited or don't care about that person, but ultimately those people are grown adults and you have to allow them, just like you would expect somebody to afford you, the opportunity to make your own decisions in life. And that's a path they're choosing. And that's okay. It's unfortunate. And you can do all you need to do, but evolve. You're supposed to evolve. You really are. Like, friendships from high school are not meant to last forever. They're meant to be part of the season of life. Now, some are, don't get me wrong, some are, but not nearly all of them. They're just a season of life. Yeah. You grow and you learn and get what you need from that relationship, and then you move on into something else.
And the best way for you to potentially serve people is for you to progress, not to be stagnant.
Good point.
Because
really good
you
point.
Never know. Maybe that high school friend 10 years later goes, hey man, I've been following you. I see what you've been up to. Can I ask for some advice? Because now you're in a position where you kept progressing. So letting go and honor their agency of where they are. And I agree with you. Like I have, like this question resonated with me. I can think of a handful of people in my life where I've felt like we've gone different directions. And I try not to be like, we're no longer friends. It's not that. If I got a call from them tomorrow and said, hey dude, let's grab lunch, I'd be like, absolutely. Now, are we doing the same things, AKA hanging out together? No, because they're hanging out of what sounds fun to them is not in the same category as me, but that's okay. But I'll grab lunch with them, right? I'll have conversations with them, see where they are. It's not like, I have a problem with them. I just realize that we're all in different places and we're progressing different ways and priorities shift, and that's okay too. So try not to have a heart at war towards them because they're not on your path is ultimately what I'm trying to say, and be okay with where people are.
One thing I wrote down as you were saying that, Kip, is I said, have an open door policy.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to go chase people around. Like your friends are making decisions, they're not taking a path you would. I'm not going to get into that world. That's not conducive for me or the people I love. So I'm not going to get into that. But you know what? My door is open. And I'll greet you at the front door. When you walk up that lane, like the prodigal son, you walk up that lane and you say, hey, I want to be part of this household. I want to be part of this family or this friendship. And you walk up, I will greet your ass at the door. And I will embrace you and I will hug you. But I'm not leaving the threshold. You got to come into this door. You have to come into this house. And you're welcome here. And there's a big mat on the door and there's a big sign that says welcome. But you have to decide to come in. I'm not going to chase you around.
Yeah, when you said met at the door, I was like, man, you got to train at least 5 minutes before.
Show me what you got. You got to beat all of these guys, and then if you beat them and pass the test, then
we can have a conversation.
You can enter my house.
Yes. All right. Luke Watts, as we in the IC explore this topic this month, I've been thinking about how I present at home. My kids see me leave for work, pants, shirt, and a tie on most days because he's a teacher, and I look good and well presented when I leave for work. When I get home, I change out of those clothes into something like shorts and a polo. But as my clothing relaxes, also become more relaxed about how I'm presenting myself. It might be wrinkly. I might wear some polo a few days in a row to save laundry, that kind of sort of thing. This is how they see me most of the time. Am I sending my kids the wrong message about presentation by being less careful about it at home?
Okay, first thing, brother, don't say you're wearing the same polo to save on laundry. That's bullshit. You're doing it because you're lazy. You know that.
Getting called out, Luke.
You know that. That's a nice euphemism for I don't want to get another shirt out, I'm lazy. I'm not saying I'm above it. I mean, I wear shirts multiple days in a row, and I'm just saying, let's be honest, okay, Luke? It's not like, oh, I'm trying to be efficient with our, water and our laundry detergent. That's not what you're doing. So be honest, number one. I think you know the answer. You wouldn't have asked the question. You know that you're showing up in a less powerful way for your kids. You're saying your shirt's wrinkly, you're wearing it more than one day in a row, and you know there's a problem with it. Otherwise, it would not have even entered your mind. And by the way, wearing shorts and a polo shirt doesn't mean you're dressing down. And I think that's one thing guys get wrong about style and the way they present themselves. When we hear style, we think suit, three-piece suit, our hair, like everything's done to the nine. No, it just means you're intentional about what you're wearing. It communicates what you want it to communicate, and you're very intentional about the purpose of why you chose those pair of shorts and that polo, for example. So an example of that would be if you're going golfing, it would be entirely appropriate for you to wear a pair of khaki shorts and a dry fit polo t-shirt. Should you wear a suit to the golf course? No, that would be weird. That would actually not be respecting the game and what you're doing. So it's not really about what you're wearing it's how you're wearing it and in what environments. So what I would suggest, because you know that you shouldn't be wearing wrinkly shirts around your kids, otherwise you wouldn't ask the question. And I can agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. You know it because you're asking the question. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Get your shirt out of the dryer. Iron it if you feel inclined. When you take it off, don't save on the loads of laundry, because that's not what you're doing. Like when you're done with it, throw it in the thing. Maybe you buy a couple of new ones. Maybe the ones you're wearing are a little bit faded. Maybe the collar's all bent and out of shape and distorted. So you go out and buy a couple of new polos. But yeah, I think you know that you're not showing up the way that you want to show up. And then I always had a coach when I was in high school, and we always had the best baseball uniforms. The newest, the best styles, the best colors. They always looked the best. And he said, if you look good, you play good. And we did. We had a great baseball team. He was a great coach. You look good, you play good. You show up at home and you get out of that suit or whatever you're wearing and you put on a pair of baggy-ass cargo shorts and a wrinkly-ass t-shirt. What does that say? That means plop your ass on the couch, grab a beer, and watch whatever, TV show or Netflix show you've been watching. That's what that says. But if you get home and you get a fitted pair of khaki shorts that you throw on, and you've got a polo shirt that fits right, it's the right material, it's clean, it's not wrinkly because it's been hung up, and you show up and you're like, all right, kids, here I am. That's not your Sunday loungewear. That's like, hey, guys, let's go out and throw a baseball in the backyard together. Or let's go for a drive together or a hike or whatever your thing is. So you know the answer. I'm not saying wear the three-piece suit when you get home or keep your suit on from work. I'm saying put the appropriate attire on be intentional, be deliberate, and elevate it even just to the slightest. Cargo shorts, move to khaki fitted shorts. Wrinkly old polo shirt moves to a nice fitted dry fit polo shirt that you just purchased a couple of weeks ago off Amazon or wherever you shop.
Yeah.
Very small
Take
changes
pride.
make a world of difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen Ragger.
Let's do this as the last question, Kip. Actually, let's not do this one because I think it's the same question. Maybe I misunderstood, but he was talking about how do you filter decisions. I think it's very similar to the one we answered last week. Is there one on Facebook that we can pull off?
Yeah. Yep. I can hop
do that.
on over. Okay.
I just think that last question was very similar to the one we answered last week. So I'm not
too
sure
close.
If
Okay.
Different. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right. Let's go with this one. All right. Sean Ferry. How do we begin to repair the damage we have done to our sons when we abandon them with our our responsibilities to them? We see the impact of the effects of our actions daily in the explosion of weak, incapable youth and men, LGB and TQI plus men who were raised by single mothers and the government. I see most men just ignore them and move on to building another family now that they've got their shit together. But at some point, don't we have to fix the damage we did? At first, I thought Sean's question was very personal, but it's a little bit more generic. But go ahead.
I don't know if I like the term fix the damage that we did. Because I think when we talk like that, I'm thinking through this as I'm kind of just thinking out loud. When we speak like that, what we're saying is that we can make up for past mistakes. And I don't know that you can. I think what's done is done and it's etched in stone, and that's a mistake that will always be.
Now you can own it,
yes,
right, and apologize.
And you should, but that doesn't, just because I apologize doesn't mean that the person's going to forgive me and doesn't mean I didn't do what I did.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get away from the, hey, let me fix it. Because in my mind, when I hear that, it almost comes across as, what can I do to manipulate the situation?
So I don't feel guilty for it anymore.
Right. Like what can I do? Like, let's say I wronged you, Kip. Then it's like, what can I do so that you don't feel wronged, so I don't feel awkward and I'm not uncomfortable in this relationship? And I don't think that's what we should do. I think what we ought to be doing, and what I'm trying to do, even in my own son's and daughter's life, is just be better than I was. I'm not trying to make up for lost time. I'm not trying to correct the wrongs I did. I'm not trying to wash over anything that I may have done in the past. I'm just trying to be better. So, for example, my son, I'd sent him a message, or actually he sent me a message, because I reached out to his mom and I said, hey, I'd like to take the kids to lunch today. And she said, well, the kids are not available. Brecken's available, but the other kids aren't. And so Brecken sent me a message like, hey, when are we going to lunch? And I sent him a message back. I'm like, hey, I got to go get this thing. Come with me. I got to run an errand, and then we'll go to lunch right after. I'm not trying to make up for anything I did. I'm just trying to build a relationship with him. We're going hunting him and I are going hunting on Wednesday. I'm not trying to make up for times that maybe I yelled at him or didn't show up the way that I wanted to. I just think going on a hunt with him is the thing that we should do together. So the question is, the question was like, how do you make up for it, or how do you fix the damage? You be better. You show up, you ask questions, you be interested, you coach their teams, you invest in them, you invest in the relationship, you make phone calls, and then you just let the chips fall where they may and allow them to make the decision they're going to make. They may respond positively. My kids are and have, and I hope they will continue to respond positively to me being a better dad. And they may not. But if they don't respond the way that I would like them to, that isn't going to deter me from showing up the way that I want to show up. To your point last week, I'm detached from the outcome. I'm doing the right thing for the right reason, and I just have to let the chips fall where they may. And I hope yields fruit, and it probably will. But if it doesn't, I would still play it that way.
Yeah. I feel, and I've done this with my boys, that if something is incomplete, you know, I showed up in a real negative way, and I'm not taking away from anything that you're saying, Ryan. I totally agree. Like, hey, show up, right? You can't change the past. But in some cases, part of that path might be to own it, right? Or to clarify or get complete with them. You know, my son Kiave, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but when he was a teenager, man, I love this phrase, and I don't know if it resonates with everybody, but I had a heart at war towards him. He's being a bad kid, making bad decisions. Part of that was my ego making me look bad, right? I made it a lot about me, and I had this mentality that he needed to change his actions for me to have a relationship with him. And I was wrong, actually, with that approach. That I actually needed to love him where he was, not based upon condition, right? Oh, you follow my rules and then I'll love you, then I'll have a relationship. And I needed to have a relationship with him so I could understand him, and so I was in a position of influence. I didn't realize that. And when I came to that realization, yes, I made some pivots and changes me personally, but I need to also have that conversation with him. Hey man, I'm sorry that I didn't show up the way I should have shown up. I can't change that now, but I want you to know that I realize it. And moving forward, I'm going to do a better job. There's value in that expression of expressing where we went wrong, not to manipulate them, not to think that we can change it and change the past, but to also let them know where our minds are and where we're moving forward. You talk about this a lot, Ryan. You know, when we talk about showing up more powerfully for your spouses, like sometimes we kind of have to let them know what we're doing, right? Yeah. Otherwise we're making pivots and adjustments, and we're like, oh, she's not even seeing it. Well, she doesn't even know about it because you haven't told her. So I think there's some value in us communicating some pivots and adjustments that we're making, and cleaning it up, right? If I wronged you, Ryan, it's great for me to start being honest with you all of a sudden, but it's also really powerful in me expressing to you like, hey man, I realize I wronged you. I'm sorry about that. And moving forward, this is my commitment to you. And so there is some power in cleaning things up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that coupled, like what you said and what I said coupled together, like that's a powerful way to move forward. But you're right. I mean, you got to own it, right? If you just change your behavior but never own that you effed up, that's not good. Or say you effed up and then don't make the pivots, then you're just a hypocrite and now you're untrustworthy and inconsistent and no one's going to believe you anyway, right? So they have to be coupled together. Well, and one other thing that I was thinking of is when you say I'm sorry to somebody, I think and I've done this, but a lot of the times what we believe is that, or the reason that we're saying I'm sorry is the other person will say it's okay. That's not why you should say I'm sorry. You should say I'm sorry because you're sorry.
Yeah.
And whether or not they say it's okay or I forgive you or we're over it or let's move on, that's great. That's nice. Like that's a bonus. But you can be sorry even if they decide, oh, I don't forgive you. You can still express your sorrow for the thing that you did, and there's healing in that too. But if you make your healing contingent upon somebody accepting your apology, you're never going to heal. Never. Yeah. All right, brother. Let's wrap it up today.
Yeah, it's funny how often I've even said, hey, I'm sorry, and someone will do the cliche, oh, no, it's okay. And you're like, and I literally said this, no, it's actually not okay. I appreciate that, but it's not okay. But I want you to know I'm sorry. Right? Because the reality of it is it's not okay. But it's not okay in my mind, right? Like some people will downplay it and it's like, actually, I shouldn't have, right? So
one thing I've been really aware of is validating people's feelings lately.
Yeah.
And so if I said, I'm sorry, like if I did something to you, Kip, and I said, I'm sorry, and you said, you know what, Ryan, it's okay. And I said, no, it's not okay. That isn't fair to you either. I think a more, and look, again, we're just talking, right? And we're not experts on this, but I think if you said that's okay, I'm going to say, I think maybe the better approach is like, no, it's not okay, is say, you know what, I really appreciate that. I've been feeling really bad, and I really wanted to make sure that I expressed how I was feeling to you. And I'm glad you feel that way, and that we can move on.
Yeah. Much better. I like that.
Like neither of us are experts. This is why this conversation is so powerful, because then we can think of better ways to show up. But when somebody says, "Hey, I'm feeling," another thing people will say is like, "Oh, I'm having a hard day. I'm feeling crappy." Oh, you don't need to feel bad. That's not validating how somebody feels.
Totally.
So if your wife says, "I had a hard day," it's like, "Oh, you shouldn't have a hard day because of this." It's like, bro, don't do that. Just say, "Oh, really? What's up? That's hard. I'm sorry. Sorry you're having a hard day today." Like, don't invalidate what she's telling you. I don't know. Something I'm working on personally.
I just love that you confirmed that we're not experts in saying sorry, because it never happens at all. You know, I may have said sorry like
nothing
once.
Ever to be sorry about. I've never done anything wrong in my life. So one time.
And if my wife is listening, if my wife is listening, it's not starting, okay? Let's just get really clear.
All right, brother, bring us home.
Sorries are not coming. Yeah. Our major call to action in roughly about 2 days, on the 15th of March, we are going to open the enrollment for the Iron Council. This is our exclusive brotherhood. This is your window. So you roughly have a 15-day window-ish to join us for our next quarter. That's starting on March 15th. To learn more, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. Ryan's making some moves. We're making some pivots. I'm actually excited. We met as a leadership team last week about kind of the future of the Iron Council, and join us, man. You have such a good thing going. I spoke with someone over the weekend, and I was talking about the Iron Council, and they're like, "Oh, really? What is this?" And I was explaining it. I'm like, it's profound. It's profound, and something that I've had an honor of being part of for 6 years plus. Yeah. And so it's been great. But once again, that's orderman/Iron Council. Of course, you can connect with Mr. Mickler on the socials, X and Instagram at Ryan Mickler. And we did have one spot open for the Uprising. I'm assuming that's probably full.
It's sold out.
It's sold out.
Yeah,
okay.
Sold out.
Well, too late.
Yep, that's it. Well, Kip, first things first, I really appreciate you being here for the past 6-7 years. It's been an amazing ride, and our friendship's amazing, and I really value it. You did say that we met as a leadership team on last week about the future of the Iron Council. Ironically, I was not on that call. So I'm very interested to hear what you guys are going to be doing with the future of the Iron Council. We'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm talking about the leadership meeting we had, not Brocker.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Fair. All right, guys. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for the great questions. Again, as always, we hope we gave you something to consider and chew on and think about. All right. Go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.